Let's talk about House of the Dragon Season 2, Episode 2. What an episode. If you've been following me for a while, then you will know that character-driven episodes are my favorites, and this one just knocked it out of the park in that regard. Rhaenyra, Daemon, Aemond, Otto, Aegon. There's so much focus on the inner conflicts of these characters in this episode. It feels like after 11 episodes, House of the Dragon has finally found the pacing that it was searching for. The stakes, the characters' motivations are established, and now we can take our time to really explore the characters. I can only repeat myself time and time again, but I appreciate it so much that House of the Dragon is much more than just a war show with dragons and stupid violence. Let's begin with the scene between Rhaenyra and Daemon. As I've said multiple times before, Daemon is fully responsible for Jaehaerys' death. When Cheese asks him what they should do if they can't find Aemond, the camera cuts away after shortly focusing on his face. In the Blood and Cheese sequence itself, Blood reveals that Daemon said, "A son for a son." We didn't get to see it, which means that this has to be his response to Cheese's question. And it makes it all so much worse, because he denies it when Rhaenyra asks him about it. He's lying. Not only has Daemon weakened her cause with this monstrous act, he has also lost Rhaenyra's trust for good. As she's saying herself, she's not a child anymore and is finally seeing him for who he is. A pathetic groomer, whose insecurity skyrockets whenever his brother Viserys is mentioned. House of the Dragon's Daemon is incredibly conflicted, and this falling out will be what drives him to become a better character. I've been quite vocal about Daemon in Season 1 and wanted to see a more nuanced depiction, because the show seemed to vilify Daemon with every chance they got. Well, I'll eat my words, I'm fully on board now. I've seen episodes 3 and 4 already, and I can assure you that all of this culminates in a wonderful exploration of Daemon's morale. House of the Dragon's Harrenhal feels more like A Song of Ice and Fire than anything Game of Thrones put out since Season 4, and it's even better with this version of Daemon. It really reminds me of characters like Theon and Jaime, and how their inner conflict dictates everything they do. Take that and add the feel of the magical aspects of A Song of Ice and Fire to it, and it's glorious. Harrenhal is petrifying, and the storyline is by far my favorite since the very early seasons of Game of Thrones. Daemon has an incredibly bright future on this show, and so does Rhaenyra, by the way, who seemingly finally comes into her own. Her scene with Mysaria is a clear indication of what's to come in terms of character development for her character. She's slowly becoming a player, which is very much needed. It helps balancing both teams out. Another scene that I like for similar reasons is the removal of Otto as Hand of the King. The performances of Rhys Ifans and Tom Glencarney were incredible, but so was the writing. Otto, despite his scheming and his constant pursuit of power, really loved Viserys. Aegon, on the other hand, despises him. Rightfully so, of course, because Viserys neglected him. The conversation is such an incredible dynamic. You really get a sense of the pure rage that both characters carried with them for all those years. Their different perspectives on Viserys are what ultimately erupts this big argument and are the cause for Otto's removal. It perfectly mirrors the scene between Daemon and Rhaenyra in this episode and shows how much of a central role Viserys played in the Dance of the Dragons. Viserys is everywhere. Otto, on the other hand, is a character that's easily overlooked in House of the Dragon. Despite constantly being compared to him, he's not like Tywin. He has more dignity and always acts with caution. That doesn't really stick out for the broader audience, but it really deserves all the praise in the world. What we've just seen was an all-time great performance, and we're lucky to have an actor like Rhys Ifans on the show. Another scene I'd like to focus on before we draw a conclusion and give this episode a rating is the funeral progression. My god, this was so uncomfortable to watch. Making a show out of it to gain the sympathy of the small folk shows the brutal lengths our characters are willing to go to. It gets worse, our characters get worse, and that's exactly what I want to see in this conflict. Alicent convincing Aegon to accept using Jaehaerys' death for propaganda is also laying the foundation for her character to be more ruthless, similarly to Rhaenyra. The tension of the scene was unbearable. It was really hard to see Helena struggle during the progression. Otto claimed that the realm must see the sorrow of the crown. That we did, and more. Before we rate the episode, I want to mention a few more things that I've enjoyed. I like how they portray Kristen Cole's hypocrisy. They're making it very easy to hate him. Aemon, on the other hand, continues to be more than just a villain. I like that they're setting up Daemon versus Aemon this early. The Cargill Bowl was well done. I liked the choreography of their fight and loved the heavy emotions that came with it. Both actors delivered a fantastic performance and I'm kinda sad to see them go. Eric's seppuku was a very good change from what we got in Fire and Blood. It's very fitting, especially in regards to the Kingsguard's sense of duty. The show is doing an amazing job with the Kings and Queensguard, and this was just very well done. Adam of Hall also finally arrived and even got his own little theme tune. That is huge on shows like this, so definitely keep an eye out for that. I think he's absolutely going to become a fan favorite. He's very sympathetic, which, depending on when Daemon will show up, will make for a nice dynamic between two genuine good guys on both sides of the conflict. By the way, yeah, Daemon is confirmed. Good. It would have been a gigantic mistake to cut him. I don't think we're going to see him in season 2. I think he'll be introduced in season 3, probably with quite a lot of setup for Honeywine, but it's just great to have confirmation. All in all, this episode was just fantastic. I love the amount of attention to detail. This is the pacing that I'm here for. The writing, the performances, the music, everything about this episode was great. House of the Dragon is in very good hands. It's not perfect, and I think there's definitely room for improvements. The show seems to have issues when it comes to adapting the big moments. Blood and Cheese could have definitely been handled better. It's not as bad as it was on Game of Thrones, but it's still very fair to criticize the show. Overall, however, this show is just really good. It really feels like book Westeros. From the way that people talk, to the costumes, to the lack of unnecessarily subverting our expectations for the sake of subverting our expectations. House of the Dragon is a very serious show, yes, but that's how I want this conflict to be depicted. I really don't want or need much humor and lighthearted moments in a show where so many people are suffering, where the entire continent is suffering. This is central to Martin's anti-war message. It's so important in this world and particularly in this time period. The lighthearted, feel-good A Song of Ice and Fire show will be Dunk and Egg. Which, by the way, I'm sorry for the person that I will become when Dunk and Egg will finally debut. I like House of the Dragon, but it's nowhere near Dunk and Egg. But we'll talk about that in a different video. Again, wait for Harrenhal in the next episode and you'll see why I'm so damn optimistic. They have gained my trust with Season 1's Viserys storyline and they absolutely blew me away with the level of love and care for George R. R. Martin's themes with their adaptation of Harrenhal and certain characters. If you know, you know. Let's rate this episode. I give House of the Dragon Season 2, Episode 2, a 9 out of 10. And that's all I have for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please feel free to subscribe so you don't miss my live streams, reviews and cast interviews that we'll be doing for House of the Dragon Season 2. See you later.